And welcome to the Mental Health Hour. I am Derek from Suck It Podcast, and my beautiful co host over here, over there. To my left is my beautiful co host, Kat from the Teachable Soul Podcast. How are you today, my dear?
I'm okay. I'm recovering from being sick. So,
That was like a week ago. You still sick?
yeah. There's a slight chance it could have been COVID. I don't know.
Did you get tested?
No. My
Maybe,
husband's going to get tested today though. So,
maybe you should have gotten tested.
you know, if I needed to be lectured, I know I should have gotten tested probably, possibly.
I'm just
I don't
saying,
know actually.
it might have been a good idea.
Well, it didn't start out like I didn't lose my sense of taste. And so or I don't know if that's how you say that, but and so I didn't lose that and I wasn't coughing, which I thought that COVID was mostly like chest stuff, but
Mhm.
then it was only like until I was a week into it that somebody was like, "Oh no, it could be like a head cold," which is what I had. And I'm like, "Oh, cool.
Could have been anything.
Yeah, could have.
All right.
Who knows? How are you?"
I'm pretty well. Things are nice, surprisingly enough.
Good. Right.
But we're, you know, you have a different setup this week. You've moved.
I did. I moved downstairs, which is why you can probably hear my dogs barking. Um, I should have let my little one in. I made a mistake and I shut the door, and now she's sitting at the door just barking at me to open the door and let her in. Hopefully she'll stop. But anyway, yeah, I moved downstairs because one, the lighting is better, and two, my computer was already here, and three, I was just fucking lazy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Not
Plus,
at
I
all.
don't like the one upstairs where I'm at because, like,
Ah,
it's a pain in the rear end because I have to, like, readjust everything. I have to move this whole big case to put my computer on and move the light and plug everything in. And I didn't have the extension cord that's up that should be up there, but it's not right now. So, yeah.
nah, you're fine. This area looks good.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. So last week
Hmm.
we discussed vices, and
Yes.
we were all over the place. We talked about,
Right.
drugs, alcohol, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that came up in the chat last week was sex.
Right.
So, not necessarily sex as a vice, but sex in general. So I've done some research, and I was gonna have a mental health professional on with us today,
Hmm.
but unlike us, apparently they don't want to volunteer their time to help other people, and they want to charge people for their advice, even though it's a volunteer basis. So we opted to not have a guest on here this week because we're not going to pay somebody to come on here, and that's not what the purpose of this show is. We
Well,
want
that's not
people that's going to
how podcasts
care enough.
work.
No, but we want people that care enough to come on here and actually just volunteer their time the same way we do.
Right.
Because this show is about helping others, not about making a profit.
Correct.
Otherwise, you would see like 50 fucking
Ads.
ads and this and that and this and that. The only ad that we ever promote is BetterHelp, which is a mental health organization.
Right.
Duh.
Right.
But that's beside the point.
I know.
Um, so this week we're going to talk about sex and mental health, and the things that I have discovered this week are kind of interesting to say the least.
I bet. It's a very
So
interesting topic.
so let's go ahead and start with the sex addiction stuff, okay?
Cool.
Because that is a hotly debated thing right now in the mental health world and the
Sure.
psychiatric therapy world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the reason why that is, and I finally found the answer on why it's debated, is
Okay.
this: some experts disagree on what the actual meaning of an addiction is.
Okay.
Some say it's strictly chemical.
Right.
Some say it's chemical and physical. The ones that say it's just chemical are the ones that say sex addiction cannot be is not a real thing. The one that say chemical and physical are the ones that say it can be, a real thing.
Okay.
So that's where the debate lies, is in whether or not it's a chemical or a physical thing.
Cool.
Addiction, at least.
Right. Yeah.
Which it goes back and forth in my head. So now that I've read up on it, here's my opinion is. So while sex is a physical thing, it does release endorphins, which is a chemical in your brain.
Right. That's what I was gonna say.
so I don't really get that debate, but at the same time, I think it's more along the lines of a chemical dependency than an actual physical thing. Like,
But if your physical body becomes dependent upon that chemical reaction in your physical body, you know what I mean?
so then can you be addicted to, like thrill?
Oh yeah.
You
I
know what
can
I'm
see
saying?
that.
Like, like
Like the adrenaline rush.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
adrenaline rushes.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, but see again, that's that's part of it.
Hmm.
So I'm addicted to jumping out of airplanes. You know what I'm saying? Is that a thing?
I mean, I
'Cause
think that people who do that say that it is addicting and can
I've
be addictive.
yeah, I've heard them say like adrenaline junkie or stuff like that, but I've never
Right.
heard them say it. Adrenaline addict.
Right. Well,
So I mean, that could go either way.
yeah, but there's also research that says that like adrenaline junkies do the things that they do, and it does have and it's because like, so people who are addicted to substances do it to escape reality, and it's the same thing with adrenaline junkies. There's even research to some degree that says like people who are incredibly giving, like they donate all of their time to what's the word, they donate all of their time to like help others, but there's a word for this. They in en, I think. Anyways, so they donate all their time. Even that can be euphoric because it causes a chemical reaction in your brain.
See, the stuff that I've read, and I think you're onto something here. The stuff that I've read also says that typically people who are diagnosed with sex addiction are
Right.
also addicted to have some other type of chemical dependency,
Yeah.
whether it be alcohol, drugs, or whatever else the case might be.
Right.
So it's usually sex addiction plus this. So then my question then comes, and obviously this is still going to be a hotly debated thing for years to
Yeah.
come, and neither
Right.
one of us are MDs.
No.
So, but like, I wonder if the use of that chemical addiction causes the sexual energy.
Now that's an interesting question because at that point, so you take a drug or you take alcohol or drink alcohol or whatever, and you cause a chemical reaction in your brain. But then on top of that, for some, that's not enough. So you have to keep adding to it and adding to it and doing more to make your brain do what you want it to do ultimately.
Correct. So maybe it's just a supplement thing.
Do you mean a supplement or do you mean like a side effect?
I would say, not supplement, like in addition to.
Yeah, like a side effect.
Not really a side effect, but like, okay, so the crack isn't doing what it's supposed to today. So instead of smoking some more crack, I'm gonna go have some sex.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not a crack addict or a sex addict. I'm just saying. I'm just hypothesizing.
Right.
But I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
can see that.
But again, I mean, that's not the whole topic of this day. We're talking about more about sexual health in general. But that was kind of the topic that we talked about a little bit last week, was whether or not it could be an addiction.
Hmm.
And again, it's one of those things that nobody can really give you the answer on. It's one of those things that just it's going to
It's
be
different for everybody.
it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe it can be an addiction, but that's just me. Again, not an MD, not giving sex, actual advice.
Right.
We can't do that here on this show, so please remember that. Don't go
No.
and say, "Well, Derek said on the mental health hour."
Right.
No, because
Just opinions.
just opinions.
Yeah.
This is what we deal with in our life.
Hmm.
But anyway, on
So,
to other things. So
right.
I found an article on what is this? It's actually a Canadian website. So, you know, trust it what you will.
Yeah.
No, it's actually it's a Canadian mental health here to help.bc.ca. So apparently a British Columbian company.
Okay.
So this is what it says, and we're off the sex addiction stuff. We're just talking about mental sexual health now. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go ahead and read you this quote. It says, "For many adults, sexual health comes in forms of an integral and cherished part of their lives, whether that is sexuality expressed with a partner or several partners, or solely with ourselves. Our sex can be as a source of meaning and great pleasure in our lives." According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, 20% of us will struggle with a mental illness in our lifetime. That means that even if you don't struggle with mental illness yourself, it is likely that mental illness will affect your life through someone you know or love, including those that we may be sexually intimate with. Does a struggle with mental illness mean losing one's cherished sexuality? No, it doesn't. But but many people don't struggle far more than necessarily just because they don't have all the information or support they need to address the challenges that can arise around sex and mental health. So, basically what that's saying is this. So even if you don't have a mental health issue, mental health can still affect your sexual prowess or your partner's sexual prowess. So this topic isn't really necessarily for someone like me who is bipolar or, anxiety or depression. It's technically for everybody.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because it goes deeper than just what's going on in our heads. Because the thing about it is, the next thing that it says in this article is that sex is a matter of mind. We often think that sex is something that our bodies are doing, but a lot of our sex life takes place in our own brains. It is important to realize that for all genders, our thoughts and feelings play a vital role in getting us turned on and keeping us that way. Anxiety or depression can strongly affect arousal and can definitely ruin the mood sometimes. Anxiety and other mental health related struggles can make it hard to be relaxed enough to even enjoy sex, overshadowing it with a host of worries or intrusive distractions. When we are very unwell and struggling to just function, sex is rarely at the top of our mind.
Oh no, yeah.
That is a huge statement because that is 100% like spot on accurate.
Right. Yeah, I can't have sex if I'm like depressed.
But again, that is, I think that's a portion of the majority. I think another portion of the majority use it as a coping mechanism. But again, that's not what this. But that I haven't gotten that far in this article yet. But I believe it does talk about it a little bit. So because on the next article that I'm going to read is 6 ways sex is good for your health and mind. So so go. What were you going to say?
I have so many thoughts. So, first of all, I believe that sex is part of your mental health and your physical health. I grew up in a fairly religious household, and I was not taught about masturbation whatsoever. I was barely taught about sex. So, I think that it's important for everyone's mental health that they explore their own bodies and figure out what you want, because I didn't know that was a thing until after I was married. I didn't ever.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I did it growing up, but I didn't, I didn't really understand. I didn't really understand that I needed to do it in order to figure out what I wanted so that I could eventually be able to either and something that I needed to learn about so that I could eventually be able to portray that to somebody else.
This conversation just took a weird turn. I knew this was gonna come up, but I wasn't expecting it to come so quickly.
Yeah. Ayo.
Ayo.
But yeah. So I didn't learn a lot of things sexually until after I got married. A lot of things. And I had a kid, mind you, before I got married.
Now, were you a virgin prior to getting married?
Did you just hear me?
So I know you didn't say that outright, but that's what I wanted to make sure of.
No.
Okay.
I was nowhere near a virgin when I got married.
Okay.
No, I was fairly promiscuous actually, but I think, I just wish that like body count didn't matter as much as some people think it does, because
see,
it doesn't matter to me.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
See, for me, body count, as far as like men go, it's a trophy. For women, it's the more you do it, the more slutty you are. But we don't slut shame on
pig.
Huh?
You were such a. Wait a minute.
No, I'm not saying that.
You said for you though.
No. I'm saying men in general.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying not for me.
I can't believe you just said that.
For my gender. Gender. Most people say, "Oh,
that's how." Yeah,
correct.
That's generally how it's perceived. You're
correct.
Exactly right.
But again, now that I think about it, that could be a mental health thing as well.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
That affects many a woman's mental health, believe you me.
But it also comes down to, it could be a self-worth thing.
Oh, 100%.
So,
especially if you grew up in like a religious household, where like
I'm only cool,
ooh.
I'm only hot, I'm only wanted if people want to have sex with me. There's actually a really good movie. Now, it is very, very raw and dirty. It's on Netflix. Actually, it stars Shia LaBeouf. It's not a porn. It's called Nymphomaniac.
Okay.
It's a 2-part movie. It's very graphic, but it really kind of gets in the head of somebody who is not really necessarily a sex addict, but is a nymphomaniac in the way that they rely on sex for their own well-being. Like they depend on it in a way to make them feel have self-worth. Which again goes back to, what I was saying earlier. People who have, in this article, like I said, it says it's hard to, anxiety or depression can strongly affect arousal and can definitely ruin the mood sometimes. But at the same time, if you're somebody who struggles with depression because of self-worth, sex might be something that you do to make you feel better.
It could be. Yeah, because sex does create positive hormones in your brain. So correct. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, it's definitely it could be it's a coping mechanism, I think, in some cases.
I know I've done that.
I'm trying to think if I've ever done that. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I don't think maybe I've done it. I can't place anything with my head, but like rebound sex.
Oh yeah, right.
That is a huge.
Oh, that's yeah.
I'm depressed. Somebody just broke up with me. I'm gonna go fuck the first person I can find.
Yep. All the time.
That is whether we realize it or not, that's a mental health thing. Because now we just got rejected. So now we need to find somebody to unreject us.
Yep.
I never thought about it like that. Fuck. See, we're opening up doors that I didn't even realize existed.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to when I was in oh man.
God, I love this show.
Right? Like I had my heart broken. I mean, shattered into a trillion pieces. And it was like immediately after that that I went on like a fucking spree. Literally a fucking spree with just anybody that I could.
So during my first marriage, even though we were together for the wrong reasons and we really didn't love each other,
Mhm.
I still was hurt by the things that she did, and she constantly cheated on me with her ex.
Mm.
So, as a way to get back at her, as a way to make myself feel better, I went and had lots of sex with other people,
Right.
which doesn't solve the problem in any which way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that whole eye for an eye thing doesn't really work in
No,
practice.
and in reality, it didn't make me feel any better.
No.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, all I got to do was, tick off a couple check marks on my fucking wall of fame.
Yeah.
But is that really healthy? No.
God, no.
Hell no.
I think that like the lack of education around sex has a lot to do with how we handle sex, like when we're in our 20s, you know? Because like they teach you, like, all I was taught was just not to have it. Just don't have it and you won't have any problems. Yeah, well, cool. What if, because like I also know of females who got into relationships when they were in junior high and high school where they were exploring BDSM and stuff like that. And like as a junior high kid or a high school kid, like you can put yourself in dangerous situations because you're not with someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
Like that's not okay that they don't know what any of that stuff is or like the proper way to handle it or rules.
yeah.
But there's nothing out there about it.
So there's two things that come to mind when we're talking about this.
Mhm.
So again, sexual education is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what leads a lot of to our mental health issues with sex is that we aren't taught properly.
Yeah.
Where a lot of us are taught to just hide it and don't talk about it, or don't
Right.
do it till you're married, or don't do it at all, blah, 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 blah. Or sex
Yeah.
is for procreation only, or whatever the case might be.
Right.
So there's two instances of this. Now, both of them are comedy related, but but they are true in a sense. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and bring these two up. So one of them is an episode of Family Guy, okay? To where Lois becomes a sex ed teacher at the school, and she's teaching them about condoms and stuff like that. Okay, and then the parents go ape shit crazy. Okay, which
Mhm.
again, it's Family Guy, but this happens.
Mhm.
And then they bring in a religious guy to teach sex ed, and he just teaches them about abstinence and wearing purity rings and stuff like that. Okay. Now, where it gets a little off track and goes a little bit, Family Guy is the fact they start fucking each other in the ear, and that's their thing. That's not really a thing, but what you just said, it goes to back to be whatever the case might be. Even though that's nobody does, I don't think anybody does that. But the thing about it is, it can be dangerous.
We
'Cause
don't
now,
kink
no, we don't kink shame. But again, what you just said, now they're experimenting with other things because now it's, they're told, intercourse is the bad thing. So now they're finding other things to experiment with. Therefore, they can still be loved by Jesus. Okay. Now another
Have
thing.
you seen that music video?
I was just getting ready to say that exact same thing. So that's part number 2. So there's a comedy group named Garfunkel and Oates, and they sing nothing but comedy songs.
Mm.
One of the comedy songs they sing is called "Fuck Me in the Ass" because I love Jesus. Now
That's
that,
a great video.
but it's a great song.
Oh, it's a great song.
The point is, that is something that happens.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That is a real thing.
Yeah.
So, regardless of whether you're teaching abstinence or whatever, if you're not teaching anything at all, or if you're just strictly preaching abstinence, you're going to find other ways to get that sexual release.
Yeah.
And again, that whole "fuck me in the ass because I love Jesus," there's a quote in there because I think it's because it's the sex that God can't see, I think is what the quote is.
Exactly.
God, I love that group. It's so
I
fucking
know.
funny.
It's amazing.
But it's again, it regardless of whether it's comedy or not, whether it's a Family Guy situation, but other TV shows have done it, or whether it's the Garfunkel and Oates song, it might be comedy, but it brings up real points.
Mhm.
These are things that happen with our kids. These are things that happen with adults. And it's all because of either sex and mental health or the fact that they're taught to be shamed of sex. So now it's become a mental health illness because of the things that they were taught.
Right.
So it builds on a lot of different things, you know. But the thing about it is, you know, and this actually comes into play what I'm, you know, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is we're gonna go ahead and talk about this one by one, and we're gonna go ahead and discuss it in detail. Okay, so this comes courtesy of Talkspace, not a sponsor, um, but these are the 6 ways sex is good for your health. Okay. So the first one, straight up, it says reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression. Now, I'm gonna read you this whole thing, and then we'll go into the conversation. Jackpot, it says. Sex isn't a cure for anxiety or depression, but the level of feel-good hormones and chemicals that are released during sex can temporarily reduce, symptoms of both mental health challenges. These include dopamine, endorphins, and oxytocin, which can boost mood, increase compassion, and help your bond with your partner. While levels of those chemicals increase with sex, the level of cortisol, the primary stress hormone, also lowers with sex. More sex equals less stress. So
Sure.
now, okay, so fact, but then it goes back to the other thing that we read earlier. Anxiety or depression can strongly affect arousal and can definitely ruin the mood sometimes. So now we have 2 counteracting points here.
Mm-hmm.
One is saying that it helps,
Mm-hmm.
which is true, but at the same time, it can also hinder. So now the question comes, how do we overcome it?
So for me, when I'm not in the mood, like it's really like it's not terribly hard to put me in the mood if done right. You know what I'm saying?
Noted.
You don't need that information.
I'm
But
just kidding, guys.
I know. But point is, I think that goes for a lot of people in general. Um I don't know. I think that would be I would think that would be harder for guys though, because I feel like, I mean, I know many a man, if they're not feeling it, there's no getting it up. Period.
Correct. And that's the biggest issue. So
Yeah.
I feel, and no, again, this is a man speaking, so I could be completely wrong. I
Yeah.
do feel that if a woman is in that state of depression or anxiety, it can be easier to get her there.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
But again, for a guy, it's a lot harder
Yeah.
or
Uh,
softer,
Not
I
harder.
should say.
Right.
Not harder at all. So here's where there's 2 facts to this. Number one, just stress and anxiety and mental, illness itself cause a hindrance.
Right.
But the things that we take to help reduce those feelings of
Mhm.
anxiety and stress and mental illness and
Right.
depression and stuff like that also cause
Mhm.
those things.
Right.
So I take Lexapro.
Mhm.
It causes shitty situations. Now, doesn't matter if it's Lexapro, Zoloft, whatever, anything that's an SRI, okay? SSRI? I can't remember what it's called. SSRI
Okay.
does reduce, your libido,
Right.
okay? Now, other types of, depression drugs or antidepressants, such as Wellbutrin, actually help your libido because
Mhm.
it's not an SSRI. So SSRIs are, like I said, like Lexapro, Zoloft, and there's a couple others.
Mhm.
Because it affects your serotonin levels directly, while Wellbutrin does not.
Right.
Wellbutrin does it in different ways. So the only way to really overcome that sometimes is the little blue pill.
Right.
Or now that they make generic, little green pill.
Right. Yeah.
But again, now you're talking about stigma.
Mm.
You're talking about cost. You're talking about a lot of different things.
Mm.
Now, because say for instance you are a 39-year-old man like I am,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and say, for instance, you're not married like like I am, or you're just trying, or a 35-year-old, or 30-year-old, or 25-year-old,
Right.
okay, and you're not married and you're trying to pick up a girl.
Mm-hmm.
That whole idea of taking a pill before you have to have sex
Mm-hmm.
is a huge, that right there alone is added anxiety.
Yeah.
So now you're adding to it.
Mm-hmm.
So popping that pill in order to make sure that you rise to the occasion, to the occasion,
Yeah.
is another example of, is a stressor.
Yeah.
Huge stressor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the stigma as well.
Yeah.
Because not only does that little pill, it helps, but it's not 100% the thing. It's again, it's in your mind as well,
Right.
and that's a tough thing to overcome.
Right. It is. So what's the second one?
Huh?
What's the second one on the list?
Oh, so well, let's finish talking about this because
We're not done. Okay.
No, we're not done yet. So as far as like a man goes, there's lots of other things that we can need to be doing. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
now again, this is opening up doors I didn't expect to open. Taking care of your partner while you're waiting for the pill to happen, or doing things to stimulate conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean conversation, I mean physicality. I'm trying to be YouTube safe here.
Right. Got to speak in code.
Yeah. Or YouTube and Facebook safe. Twitter doesn't really matter. We're, Twitter I can say whatever the fuck I want, but
Cool.
but YouTube and Facebook I gotta finagle things.
Yeah.
There are ways to stimulate those things in order, by doing those things to your partner, taking care of your partner first.
Mm-hmm.
But then aside from that, even if you can't rise to the occasion, if you're in the mood but you're having issues down there, there's still ways that you can still take care of your partner in order to make sure that your partner is still pleased. And in reality, by pleasing your partner, if you have some type of empathy or empath ability, making them happy will also make you happy, which in turn might make you go bang.
Woohoo! Yeah.
So again, these are all things that you need to think about. So you need to figure out what works for you. So that goes back to self-exploration.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who is on medicine that causes these hindrances, or if you self-medicate with pot, whatever the case might be, if you have depression issues and you have trouble rising to the occasion because of it, you need to figure it out on your own. And there's only at that point can you actually be able to be with a partner. Period.
Yeah, and figuring it out on your own is going to be better in the long run anyways. Like, it's also, I know that there are men that I know that are feel somewhat ashamed when they can't get it up, and it affects their self-worth like a lot.
Yep.
So if you figure it out on your own, you won't have to worry about that.
Exactly, because it allows you to now, and then plus on top of that, the sexual health as far as a man goes. Say for instance, it's been a week since you've been touched or touched yourself or had an erection or whatever the case might be. Doing that more often and kind of forcing yourself to do it on your own is actually healthier for you,
right?
Because it allows your member to remember things, and it's a muscle memory thing. So there's ways to stimulate yourself. And again, but it comes back to self-exploration. If you're not self-exploring, then you're never going to be able to get back into the groove of things with your partner or any new partner, and especially a new partner, because then it's only going to make matters worse.
Yeah.
So it goes back to, again, the masturbation thing.
Yeah.
All right. So on to number 2. It can take your mind off of other things.
Oh yeah. That's actually how I've used it as a coping mechanism before, because like, yeah, if I don't want to think about something, I'll be like, hey, what's up? Let's go.
Yeah. So I mean, what it specifically says here is sex is a kind of temporary escape from the stresses of everyday life. Sure, there's a lot to focus on when doing the deed, like how to please your partner, what turns you on, and the pleasure itself. If you find your mind wander to your daily anxieties, try to concentrate on every little physical sensation you're experiencing. What better way to practice mindfulness than sex?
Somebody said, by the way, hilariously watching this with the contractor mulling around my house. I'm sure that's not awkward for him at all. Oh, that's the best thing ever. Yeah, if anybody's listening to this in public, you might want to put headphones in.
Not safe for
Maybe
work.
Should have put a disclaimer at the beginning of this.
Wait. On the thumbnail, it says sex and our mental health.
It does.
It does.
But just saying. Anywho, so yeah, mindfulness. And
But again,
that
you're
goes
right.
back to, exploring yourself and masturbation. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it can take your mind off of things. But at the same time, it's one of those things that if it's a stressor, you've got to find a way to get your mind off of that, in order to be able to focus on the situation at hand. And that's the only way to be able to do that. So again, it comes back to self-exploration.
Yeah, and I've done it before, like bed especially, because like otherwise there's a chance that I'll just stay up all night
Yeah.
thinking and focusing on the thing I don't want to be focusing on. So I'm like, hey, make me tired.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so this next one is this one's another hotly debated one.
Cool.
It says getting busy counts as exercise, sort of.
I mean, sort of.
Sort of. I mean, now it all depends on how physically active you get. Now, safe for Facebook. Safe for Facebook. Safe for YouTube. I don't want to get booted.
Yeah.
Let's just say it does reduce. It does, does get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
But and it's just a matter of how long and how active and how fast.
I also think it matters. Oh yeah, like how passionate you're being about it, or whatever.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're super into it and you're both super into it, then you can go pretty quick. But that's also an issue. I mean, unless you're just like rolling around a whole bunch, which is possible.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're going to move off of that one.
Yeah.
Now on to what you just said. Sex can help you sleep.
Yeah.
So getting enough sleep is crucial to both mental health and physical health. Just think about how grouchy you feel when you're short on sleep.
Right.
How much better do you feel when you're well rested? If you usually have trouble sleeping, try having before bedtime. It literally just says XX before bedtime. That's what it says.
Nice.
The hormones released help you feel more relaxed and ready for bed.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an orgasm, then the hormone prolactin is released, which helps you even sleep even better.
Orgasms in general can release so much. There was a time, this is super weird, but there was a time where I used to cry like a lot after having an orgasm. So yeah, I agree. It can release.
Is there a reason why?
No fucking idea. I even told my therapist and he was like, huh? I've never heard of that. And I'm like, cool, buddy. Appreciate that. That's something you totally want to hear your therapist say.
Well, see, the thing was, I've heard of that, but I've heard about it in a joking way.
It's a joke because it's true.
No, no, no. So on the everyone knows my coping mechanism when I'm in a bad mood is watching the TV show Scrubs.
Right.
And there's an episode where that talks about the fact that every time Turk has an orgasm, he cries after sex.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It wasn't every time, but for a while it was a lot. And I don't know why. I mean, I theorize that it's just so um the brain is a wonderful thing and a very weird thing sometimes. And you don't really realize how much power it actually has until you accidentally do something to yourself that you didn't mean to do. Um, it's hard for me to cry in general. Stop it.
that was a weird sentence, and I couldn't help but like,
Well,
what the fuck?
so when I was like 13,
Okay.
I was displeased with the way my life was going.
Okay.
And as most 13-year-olds
As
are,
most 13-year-olds, yeah, exactly.
right? But I was crying myself to sleep every night, and I would wake up the next morning feeling like absolute dog shit. And so I got tired of it. And I was laying there crying one night, and I was like, this isn't fixing anything. It's not making me feel any better. As a matter of fact, at this point, it's making me feel worse every time. It needs to just stop. Like, I'm just going to not do this anymore because it's not doing anything for me. It's not fixing anything. It's not releasing anything. I don't know why we even cry. Like, it's useless to me. And so now it's really hard for me to cry. And so I think that for me, I was doing that because I was potentially in what I thought was a stressful position, or I was stressed out. I don't know.
A stressful position.
not
God
that
damn
kind
it,
of
Derek. I'm sorry. I gotta stop.
It's okay. So
This isn't such a podcast.
I was stressful. I was probably stressed out, and it was hard for me to release emotions. And so when I would orgasm, I would probably feel that release of hormones, and it would like open the floodgates in all kinds of ways, so to speak.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's just my theory, and that's just for me.
Because maybe you were
not going to be for everybody.
Yeah, because again, maybe you were pushing down your emotions.
Oh, 100%.
And bottling it up, and then the moment you splooged,
yep. Right?
Not only did you splooge physically, you also mentally as well.
Mentally, exactly. Yeah, because I can
I say splooged on YouTube?
Evidently.
Apparently.
Because if I have a good enough if I have a good enough orgasm, I can literally feel like the tingling in my brain whenever that happens. Like, it's so relaxing.
Those are the best.
Right?
When you can feel it in your toes.
Oh, man.
And your face gets lit. That
yes.
pins and needles. Yeah.
Woo! Yes. And your oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. That is like the pure euphoria.
Oh yeah, that's the best kind. Like I have found that there are now multiple different kinds of orgasms, which I did not know, by the way.
But there is for men too.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, there's levels, but there's also different kinds. So
yeah, absolutely.
Go figure that out for yourselves today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or with your partner, whatever.
With your partner. Yeah. Okay. So moving on.
Moving on.
Okay, so I didn't read this before, but now I'm reading it now.
Okay.
Number 5. Kinky sex is clinically linked to well-being. Yes, really. Okay, so I'm going to read this.
Wait a minute.
Well, I'm going to read this. Hold on. While non-vanilla sex definitely has a stigma attached to it, kinky sex comes along with some benefits of its own. For example, studies have shown that couples engaged in BDSM are better communicators than couples who don't. Those who practice BDSM also report comparatively higher sense of well-being. Unsurprisingly, they're also more willing to try new things. So go ahead and get your Christian Grey on. That's exactly what it says. That is a quote.
Oh, now that's not a good example.
Quote.
Christian Grey is not an example.
It's
A good
not,
example
but
of that
it's
shit.
they were just it's a
But
euphemism. But
right.
yes.
I mean, I can
So
see that because in order to engage in BDSM, you have to communicate and you have to be super hyper aware of the other person that you're doing it with. Because as I stated before, you can put yourself in dangerous situations potentially with things like that. So you have to be hyper aware of safety precautions, of how your partner is feeling.
yeah,
I mean, there's safe words for a reason,
yeah.
but there's also like if you've been with your partner for a while, they can literally just sense if you're okay or not okay.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that second part, about the BDSM stuff, I think it goes deeper than that, to where it's not just BDSM.
No, of course.
No, so
I mean,
there's swinging, and then
yeah,
there's having multiple partners. There's
polyamory.
threesome,
Yeah,
polyamory, polygamy. Whatever the case might be. There's a lot of different things that are involved in that community outside of BDSM that allow for sexual exploration.
exploration. Mm-hmm.
Exploration. Now, there was some of the benefits of swinging and polyamory and other stuff like that.
Yeah,
Now, we're not getting into debate whether or not whatever. But again, it allows you to explore who you are as well. Because,
yeah,
say for instance, your primary partner, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, doesn't want to explore those other things. They like the vanilla world. They like, just being casual with things. Being able to explore other things outside of that allow you to be able to figure out who you are as well.
yeah.
So,
Which in theory is something that we should all probably do before we get married, but it just doesn't work out that way sometimes. And so if you are married to a partner who allows you to do that after the fact, I mean, great.
fantastic.
Fantastic. That's right.
So, moving on.
Moving on. Yeah.
All right. So
That could
then,
be a whole
lastly,
other episode.
that's a whole episode.
Yeah.
A controversial episode, but it's a whole episode.
We would need so many people to come on and talk.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So
Okay.
the last one is something that we've said 50 times in this episode.
Mhm.
Masturbation is just as beneficial.
Oh yeah.
So I'll read you this whole quote. Partnerless or saving yourself from marriage, no problem. Masturbating comes along with its own set of benefits. Since you're getting it on solo, you won't risk unplanned pregnancies or contracting STDs. On top of releasing those feel-good hormones, masturbation can also help you learn about your own body and figure out what you can or can't do to yourself. Therefore, you can better communicate those things to your current or future partners, making for better sex overall.
Yep.
Masturbation is even linked to better body image. I didn't know that. But it makes
Interesting.
sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
If all this doesn't make sense, if all this doesn't make you want to go have sex, then I don't know what to tell you. Just remember, practice safe sex, avoid unhealthy sex decisions, and of course, have fun and revel in the pleasure. Now go out and get some. That's exactly what it said.
Nice.
I,
Nice.
I will link this article in the comments because this is
Nice.
actually a really good article.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and put that in the comments right now.
Okay.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It
is.
really, really, really is.
Right. Something that we haven't talked about is porn though. And sex. I like porn. And I know many women who don't. And are offended when their boyfriends or husbands or whatever, or partners, significant others, whether they be female or male, are offended when their partners watch it. And I feel like I used to feel that way when I very first got married, but I also feel like that was because that's what I was taught. because, like, again, religious household, when I first got married, I still believed that porn was like bad religiously. But I mean,
I think we could spend a whole episode on porn
oh yeah,
itself.
yeah, totally.
Because the
Because
thing
there's
about it
also
is,
studies that say that, like, guys, it like porn doesn't benefit guys visually because it can. That's also another potential vice, because there are people who say that they're addicted to porn. You know,
yeah. See, I don't believe. I mean, never say that. It doesn't. That I don't believe that's 100% accurate.
which one?
Where you can, where visually it doesn't. No, that's.
Well, and
I
this
think
may have
that's.
been. I
Yeah.
also think that there's a possibility that that study that came out and said that porn is bad for guys basically was religiously motivated, if you will.
Oh, I'm about to say, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's definitely,
most of those are.
yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. But if it's not, let's pretend that they're being unbiased
Okay.
and say that somehow your guys' brain works differently because you are visual beings for the most part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it creates an unhealthy, not unhealthy, just like creates an image in your head of what you guys think a woman's body is supposed to be like, and that's not actually in reality what a woman's body is supposed to look like.
Correct. And that's why when I watch porn, I don't. I'm very picky about my porn.
Hmm.
I don't. I only watch the things that I'm attracted to.
But that
So
has
like if I'm
changed over the
so
years, like we've
so in
discussed.
reality, so like I think I've said this before, if not here on Suck It.
Hmm.
Um, the I'm attracted to real. Oh, actually, I had this conversation last week with supermodel Courtney Rippert.
Hmm.
Um, I'm attracted to realism.
Right.
Okay, show
But
me
we've
a
discussed this before, and
yeah.
you didn't used to be.
See, I don't know if that changed or if it was just something I hid, but it's like show me a girl with stretch marks, I'm all over it. You know, show me a girl with some love handles, I'm all over it. You know, a big old booty, let's do it. You know, but show me a girl that is a stick figure, that stereotypical what every man dreams of, 36, 24, 36. You know,
Mm.
um, that's not me at all. I don't enjoy that at all. Um, I feel like I'm gonna break her. um, I mean, because I'm a big 6 foot, 250 pound dude. I'm a muscular, strong guy, and
Right.
that's just what it is.
Mm.
So, you know, but again, that comes down to again discovering who you are as a person with mental health. But aside from that, discovering who you are in reality. Because if you're constantly seeking out sex for attention,
Mm.
sex for whatever, if you're reaching out in the wrong places, say for instance, you're. Let me try to put this in a trying to put this in a way that makes sense and doesn't sound assholey. Um, Say for instance, you're a really good looking guy or a really good looking girl.
Sure.
Okay, but you have self worth issues. You have issues with, oh, I'm too skinny, oh, I'm too fat, or whatever the case might be, but you're gorgeous, man or woman.
Hmm.
So you're always looking for somebody who is less than you, hypothetically. The the person that you wouldn't the stereotypical person that you wouldn't be normally caught with. Like a person with like if your best friend came up to you and go, "What are you doing with that person?" That type of person. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yes. So you're
Okay.
constantly looking down. They're looking for somebody who's below you just for the simple fact of getting some. If you're constantly doing that and not finding somebody that you believe that's on your own level, does that make sense? Like finding
I
somebody that
think
actually that you actually find attractive, somebody that you actually want to be with. But instead you're settling for everybody else just because you want to feel wanted. You're never going to get that true feeling of euphoria. You know am I making sense?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I got what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I think,
but that's a whole like subconscious.
correct. Well, what I'm saying, but I think that goes a lot. But that's a huge thing. So you're just finding anyone that's willing to have sex with you, but the one that you really want, the person that you're actually gonna have to work for and actually put an effort towards, you don't have the mental prowess to do so because you're so down in your self-worth. But that one person or that three people or whatever the case might be that might be the ones that's going to set you over the edge, you don't want to go there because you're afraid of rejection. So you're, even though they're on your level. Am I making sense?
What is your point? Like, what is the point? I don't understand.
The point I'm trying to make is knowing who you are and what you desire is only going to be better for your mental health and for your sexual well-being. Because if you're constantly seeking out comfort in the arms of somebody you don't want to be with just for the simple fact of sex, it's only going to make matters worse.
100%.
That's what I'm saying.
Well.
And that's why I only watch porn that for with women that I would actually enjoy being with. You know,
so but
Barbie, I wouldn't have sex with. I'm not going to have sex with Barbie, so why would I watch a porn with that?
So, but you and I have had this discussion before, and you said that you didn't used to date women who were thicker. You said that you only used to go after women who were skinnier. So, did you used to also watch porn with only thin women or thick women? Like, did it not matter when you were younger? What happened? Tell us.
Wow, doors are opening again. I don't know. I don't remember. Because back in those days, porn was,
harder to get to.
Yeah, because it was dial-up. And everyone's favorite position was buffering.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was only one kind of woman in magazines, so.
Exactly. There was only, and yeah, even back then.
Yeah.
There was only one type of woman in magazines. So it's harder for me to say.
That's true.
But it didn't, it wasn't until I started really exploring who I was that made me realize what I really wanted.
Right. Truth.
This is an interesting conversation.
Super. Also, I want to talk about skin hunger. Have you ever heard of this?
I've never heard of this. Please.
So I am an extremely tactile person, which means that I enjoy touching things and being touched pretty much constantly. And I learned that if I am not
love language,
right, it is. Physical love for me is important. And so sex is obviously important to me. So, but I learned, because my husband's in the military and he goes away for long periods of time, often, that skin hunger is a real thing that I had not previously heard of. Yeah, it's where, so like I can get depressed if I don't get touched in the right ways. It's a real thing, and it's a problem.
No, that makes sense. I mean, yeah. I've just never heard it described that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Like, even if I, which I worry about personally, because if anything were to ever happen to my husband, like, me being promiscuous is almost not an option because of that. Like, I legitimately get depressed without being touched, like, lovingly and affectionately. So going and getting a massage is not going to fix it. for me. So yeah, that's an interesting thing that happens.
So how would you? How do you deal with that?
How do I deal with it?
Yeah.
Well, he's still here and like around, so it's fine. Even if he's not physically here, I can call him literally any time of the day
Yeah, but that
and
doesn't
be
get
like,
you. That doesn't get you the touch that you want.
it doesn't get me the physical touch that I want, but it gives me the emotional attention in the moment that I might need. And if I am masturbating basically while I'm on the phone, because that's a thing that happens with him, then it can still, if he's saying the right things, shut up. So if he's
I'm not saying anything. I'm again. These are.
but
these
your
are things
eyeballs are saying some stuff.
These are things I wasn't accounting for today. I did not plan on having these certain conversations.
In long distance relationships, sex is important, and you can have sex over the phone. And especially in today's day and age, you can do it over camera. There's lots and lots and lots of ways to do it. But yeah, truthfully, whenever he's gone, it's not a thing I can fix, really. I can do things over the phone, but if I'm already in a depressed mood, it's hard for me to want to do things over the phone or even do things to myself by myself. So I luckily, I am fortunate enough that he doesn't go away for like months at a time, but he'll go away for weeks at a time. And I think the most trouble I ever had was when he was gone for like 6 weeks one time, or 8 weeks or something. And then it was near the end of that time period. I was like, I'm depressed and I don't want to get up and I don't want to do anything.
What if he got deployed for like a year?
I can't have that conversation on air.
Okay. I think you just basically said exactly what you were going to say, though.
He is very understanding and loving and appreciates who I am.
Okay, then. That is what it is.
Yep.
So on that note, I think the overall point of today is just knowing who you are.
Yep.
Regardless of anything else, knowing who you are and how you feel is the only way you're going to be able to overcome it. Rise to the occasion, slippery when wet, whatever the case might be. Getting to that point is all about who you are as a person. And you need to get to that point in order to be able to understand it.
Yep.
Whether it's struggling with mental health, anxiety, or taking pills and trying to figure out how that works.
What?
Nothing. I'm just reading something. It's just a matter of, again, figuring out who you are.
Right.
So.
And it's important to your mental health, especially if you're a person like me, that physical touch is important to my mental health.
It is. And that's another thing, too. So figuring out your love language is huge.
Yeah.
So I'm big on I have two love languages. One is touch, and then one is I can't think of what it's called, but it's like reassurance.
The verbal one?
The verbal one. The verbal
words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation, thank you.
Yeah.
Those are my two big things.
Yeah. I think that's my husband's is words of affirmation and acts of service. And mine is physical. And I think my next second one was words of affirmation. But I honestly, that kind of makes sense to me, but I also, I enjoy surprises. And so, while I don't do gifts, I super appreciate, surprises and effort put forth into things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Planning. Yeah. That's a huge thing for me. I don't know why. It's weird. Which is not, on the list.
It's not on the list.
No.
I don't think that's a thing.
But I'm telling you. If somebody planned,
are you creating your own list of,
I'm creating my own
languages?
Yeah. I'm adding that one.
Dr. Cat over here.
The guy who wrote that isn't even a doctor, I don't think. Is he?
What? The love languages?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I'm gonna find out.
I
Hold on.
didn't know that. I didn't know that was a person that came up with that. I thought it was like a group of people.
Oh no, it's a book. It's a
Is
book that it's a book that somebody wrote. Guy named
Oh.
Gary Chapman. He is a counselor. I don't know if he but it doesn't have doctor in front of his name, so I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
go with not
he
a
might-
doctor.
He might be a therapist. I'm, a master's degree student. Who knows?
He. Oh wait, Dr. Gary Chapman. There it is. Yes.
Okay, so
he
he's
did.
a doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor. But yeah, he wrote the five. It's a book called The Five Love Languages. I didn't know that you didn't know that. And he also wrote the one that came after that, which is I think something to do with like arguing, not necessarily arguing, but oh shoot, I'm gonna find it. It's like it's communicating maybe or something like that. I don't know, but there's apologies. That's what it is. Because different people can also accept apologies in different ways. Like, I know someone who I literally have to apologize to them 3 times before they accept it as an actual apology. Once
Sure.
is not enough.
Sure, that's not an OCD thing.
Oh, that's probably 100% an OCD thing, but that's the way I have to apologize to them in order for them to
When
get it.
people walk into a room and have to touch everything in the room,
Yeah.
or walking through a door 3 times in order to be able to walk through it, or Sheldon, Amy.
Right. Exactly. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
Sex matters to them too.
It is.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Know yourself, your love languages. It's in your best interest.
really
best
is.
for your mental health, best for your partner's mental health.
It really, really is. I mean, overall, it just comes down to, again, I think we can have like 5 episodes just on sex and
man.
mental health. Oh my
Yeah.
God. But yeah. I definitely think this is a topic that we need to convene with, probably with more people.
Yeah. I concur.
So we'll have to
We
plan
should
that
invite
for.
Gabriel. He was the one who came up with it. He was the one who asked last week about sex.
We might need to do that.
We should do that.
And then see if we can
Courtney.
get some other people too.
Yeah.
We'll have to come up with some things on that one.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, I think next week,
Mhm.
I'm gonna put this out there in the Facebook world and the YouTube world. I think next week we need to talk to somebody. I want to interview a real person.
A real person.
Yeah, not a
What
therapist.
kind of a real person?
A real person that deals with shit,
What kind of shit?
mental health issues. Someone like me, or maybe worse.
I have a. Never mind.
Well,
I
I
don't know.
have somebody
We'll talk
that's
about it.
watching right now that I'm talking to directly, and I'm
Oh.
trying to make sure and trying to tell him to be available next fucking Monday. At 10.
Well, okay. What would you talk to him about if you could?
I could talk to him about anything because it's
Well,
my
pick
brother.
a topic. Oh, yes! I'd love to talk to your brother.
See, Chad. We want
Chad!
you, not this week because we're already an hour in, but next week you need to make yourself
Yes.
available at noon.
Please. That would be so cool.
Comment down below, Chad, or text me.
If
But
you're
yeah,
listening,
I'm
if
gonna
you
I'm
hear
gonna
us-
I'm gonna convince him to come on the show next week because
Yay!
we've talked about him a lot on the show.
We have.
And all in positive ways. I've never dissed him.
No, yeah.
But his, he does suffer from things worse than I do.
Right.
He's bipolar 1, for example. There's a huge difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2.
Right.
He's also got other, things attached with that. So I would love to be able to, so he said he will be on the show next week.
Yay!
So next Monday at noon.
Thank you, Chad.
Noon East, 9 West, my brother Chad will be on the show.
Is he in Hawaii?
No, he's moved to Hawaii. He's moved back to. He's actually in the Keys now.
Oh, back to the Keys.
Yeah, no, well, he never moved back to the he moved to the Keys for the very first time, but he's working and living in the Keys now. So he moved from Hawaii. He's going to spend about a year in the Keys. He actually just got his master dive certification.
Congratulations.
So he's actually the highest level dive master you could possibly be.
Right.
And he's going to spend a year or so down there working, and then he wants to move to Fiji.
That's so fucking cool.
I know. So from
jealous.
Hawaii to the Keys, and then maybe Fiji, or
I've been trying to convince my son.
I think he should go to Australia. I think you should go to Australia.
Why would you want your brother to go to Australia? You want him to get eaten by sharks? They're just every animal in Australia is a badass down there. No, you don't want that. Trust me.
I would love to dive the Great Barrier Reef.
I mean, who wouldn't? But also, you could get eaten by sharks.
You can get eaten by sharks anywhere.
No, I disagree. Australia is a different animal.
Great whites are in Florida too.
Australia is still a different animal, quite literally, in every way, shape, and form possible.
It's not South Africa. That's a different animal. Watch Shark Week.
Have you ever seen like any of the memes and stuff about animals, like spiders in Australia, kangaroos just throat punching people?
We're getting off topic.
We are. Sorry.
This is a conversation for Suck It Podcast, not for the Mental Health Hour.
Okay. Anywho.
Yeah, we don't talk about throat punching. But it's
been real.
On Suck It Podcast. We'll talk about throat punching on Suck It Podcast. Maybe my guest tonight will talk about throat punching with me.
Right.
Who knows? But so next week, my brother Chad will be on. That'll be a fun conversation. Yeah. But until then, again, just like I said, just learn about who you are. Sex is a powerful thing, and it can be used for good or evil. In the mental health world, it needs to be used for good only. But I think in sex general, it needs to be used for good only. I mean, sex is sex. I mean, it's a powerful, powerful, powerful thing.
And masturbate, y'all. This has been your mental health PSA for the week. Masturbation is
why does that make me want to laugh like a 10-year-old? She said masturbate.
Your brain. Because inside your brain, you're really 13.
No, I'm younger than that in my brain.
Okay, 12.
But either way, we will be back again next Monday, 12 East, 9 a.m. West. And join me tonight on Second Podcast at 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. West with actor, Broadway star, musician Tim Moss. He'll be on the show. So that'll be a fun conversation. And Kat will be releasing a new episode this week. I'm not sure when, but she'll be releasing a new episode of The Teachable Soul sometime this week.
I released 2 a week now. So today a new episode came out about a project actually that I'm really excited about called Seeds, and everybody should go listen because it's really, really cool. Okay. And then Thursday it's going to be about a lady who got out of an abusive relationship.
Ooh. That should be another conversation too for another week.
Oh yes.
Abusive relationships. So I love that we can just come up with topics for this. This is a never-ending topic show.
Oh yeah.
So much going on with it. And I love this show. So thank you very much for doing it with me. Thank you very much for joining me on this fantastic ride that we call the Mental Health Hour. I will be back tonight. Same channel, different time. But next Monday, 12 p.m. East, 9 a.m. West, we'll be back. But until then, you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace out.